I unknowingly sent a flirt message to my ex's sister, and before she could reply, my ex saw it first. And in that single, unguarded second, the quiet life I had spent 4 months carefully rebuilding came undone in a way I never saw coming. I am Sawyer Hines, a graphic designer, a steady, warm-hearted man who had finally stopped aching over a breakup that didn't break me, but left me carrying more questions than peace. I wasn't searching for anyone. I wasn't reaching out to anyone. I was simply sitting beneath an orange Charlotte sky, trying to send one honest message to the right person. But one dimly lit screen, one contact scrolled a fraction too far, one thumb moving faster than my eyes, and the message I meant for my closest friend landed, instead with my ex's sister. That's where it begins. The balcony was warm that evening, the kind of warm that settles on your skin and makes your shoulders drop. I had my coffee gone cold beside me, the mug leaving a faint ring on the wooden rail, and the whole sky was on fire. Orange melting into pink, melting into something I didn't have a name for. Somewhere below, a neighbor was grilling, and the smell of charcoal drifted up to me, mixed with cut grass and the faint sweetness of the jasmine someone grew 2 floors down. I had been thinking about Nathan, my best friend since college. A few days earlier, he'd said something to me I couldn't shake. We were sitting in his truck after helping his brother move, both of us sweaty and tired, and out of nowhere he said, "Sawyer, some things stick to you whether you want them to or not. The trick isn't forgetting. It's choosing what you carry." I nodded then, but it took until that orange evening for the words to really land. I wanted to tell him he was right, that I'd been carrying the wrong things for 4 months, and I was finally ready to set some of them down. So I picked up my phone. The screen was dim, almost too dark to read. I scrolled with my thumb, half watching the sky instead of the screen, and I typed, "Hey, I saw that orange sky tonight, and it brought back that whole conversation we had about starting over. I keep thinking, some things just find a way of sticking with you. Anyway, just wanted you to know I haven't forgotten." I pressed send, and for one beautiful second I felt light, honest, like a man who had finally said a true thing out loud. Then I lifted my cold coffee, took a sip to celebrate, and my eyes drifted back down to the screen. That's when I saw it. At the top of the message, where Nathan's name should have been, was a different name entirely. Nora vs. Sis. The mug stopped halfway to my mouth. My stomach dropped straight through the floor of that balcony, through 2 stories of brick all the way into the ground. Nora, Vanessa's little sister. A woman I had met exactly 1 time 6 months ago at a Holt family dinner. Back when Vanessa and I were still together, back when I still believed I knew exactly where my life was headed. I'd saved Nora's number that night because she'd offered to connect me with a local art supplier she knew. I never called. The breakup happened. Life moved on. And that contact had just sat there, buried in my phone like a sleeping landmine, waiting for one careless thumb. And now I had stepped on it. I sat up so fast the chair scraped against the concrete. My heart was pounding in my ears. I read my own message again, but this time I read it the way she would read it. The way anyone would read it. I keep thinking, some things just find a way of sticking with you. I haven't forgotten. To Nathan, it meant a conversation about life. To a woman I barely knew, a woman whose sister I used to date, it sounded like something else entirely. Something soft, something personal, something it absolutely was not. I started typing an apology. My hands weren't steady. "Hey, I'm so sorry. This was meant for someone else. Please ignore." But before I could finish, 3 little dots appeared at the bottom of the screen. Someone was already typing back. I stared at those dots like they were a fuse burning toward me. My whole body went still. What was she going to say? Would she be confused? Hurt? Would she tell Vanessa? The dots blinked, disappeared, blinked again. And here is the part one didn't know, the part that changes everything. In that exact moment, Nora Holt wasn't even holding her phone. 3 miles away, on a soft gray couch in an apartment on Fairview Road, the phone was in someone else's hand. It was in Vanessa's. Nora was in the kitchen, draining a pot of spaghetti, the steam curling up around her face, humming along to a song on the radio. She was completely, blissfully unaware. She didn't know her phone had buzzed. She didn't know a message with her name on it had just arrived. And she didn't know that her older sister was sitting 12 feet away, frozen, staring at my name glowing on the screen. Vanessa read my message once. Then she read it again, slower. And something behind her eyes went very, very still. You have to understand who Vanessa was in that moment. She was the woman who walked away from me 4 months earlier. The one who ended it cleanly on a Sunday afternoon, telling me we wanted different lives and she was sure. She was the one who told her friends she was fine, who told her family it was for the best, who told herself every single morning that she had moved on and never looked back. But here's a quiet truth about people. Those who have truly moved on don't freeze when they see your name. They don't read a message 3 times. They don't glance toward a kitchen doorway to make sure no one is watching. Vanessa did all 3. She heard the water running. She heard her sister humming. And in the space of about 10 seconds, she made a choice that wasn't hers to make. She didn't call out, "Nora, you've got a message." She didn't set the phone down and walk away. She didn't do the simple, honest thing. Instead, her thumb began to move. And from Nora's phone, from a phone that wasn't hers, inside a conversation she had no right to be inside, Vanessa typed 5 short words and sent them to me. "I think you sent this to the wrong person." Back on my balcony, I watched those words appear, and I actually laughed out loud in relief. The breath I'd been holding rushed out of me all at once. Of course, Nora had figured it out. No harm done. She wasn't upset. She was just letting me know, kindly, that I'd missed. So I finished my apology. I poured everything decent in me into it. "I'm so sorry, that message was meant for a friend. It absolutely wasn't meant to reach you. I hope you're doing really well, and again, I apologize for the confusion." I pressed send. I felt the warmth of having done the right thing. But that apology never reached the person it was meant for. Because Vanessa read it, every word. And before her sister ever stepped back into that living room, she opened the message, looked at it for a long moment. My careful, honest apology, and then she deleted it. Gone. Like it never existed. Then she set the phone face down on the cushion beside her, leaned back into the couch, and turned up the volume on the television, as if nothing in the world had happened. A minute later, Nora walked in. She had her bowl of pasta in both hands, steam still rising off it, a kitchen towel thrown over her shoulder. She dropped onto the couch beside her sister, tucked her feet up under her, and twirled her fork through the noodles. "What are we watching?" she asked. "Nothing good," Vanessa said. Her voice was perfectly even, perfectly calm. Nora laughed at something on the screen. She had no idea. No idea a message with her name on it had just arrived and been answered. No idea an apology had been written and erased. No idea that a stranger she'd met once, half a year ago, was sitting across the city at that very moment, believing the whole thing was settled. She just ate her dinner. She rested her head against the back of the couch. At one point she even reached over and squeezed her sister's arm. A small, easy gesture of love between 2 people who trusted each other completely. And Vanessa let her. That's what stays with me, even now. Not the message, not the mistake, but that moment. A sister squeezing her sister's arm in the soft blue light of a television, with a secret already sitting between them like a stone neither of them could see yet. Across the city, I rinsed my cold mug in the sink, turned off my balcony light, and went to bed thinking the strangest, smallest thing had happened and that it was already over. I had no idea I'd just lit the first spark of something that would burn its way through all 3 of our lives. I had no idea that the reply I'd received was written by the wrong hand. And I had no idea that the woman I thought I'd apologize to had never read a single word I said, because somewhere out there, in a quiet apartment, my message was still waiting, still unread, still sitting in the dark, with a sister's name on it and a sister's heart attached to it. And sooner or later, she was going to find it. The next morning came soft and gray, with rain tapping against the windows of the apartment on Fairview Road. Nora woke before her alarm, the way she always did on school days, her mind already drifting toward her classroom, toward 22 5-year-olds who would be waiting for her, sticky-handed and bright-eyed, by 8 o'clock. She reached for her phone on the nightstand out of habit, to check the weather, to see if she'd need the big umbrella. That's when she saw it. A message. From the night before. From a name she hadn't seen in 6 months. Sawyer Hines. She blinked at it, still half asleep, and sat up against her pillows. The rain kept tapping. Down the hall, she could hear the shower running. Vanessa. Getting ready for work. Nora opened the message. Hey, I saw that orange sky tonight and it brought back that whole conversation we had about starting over. I keep thinking, some things just find a way of sticking with you. Anyway, just wanted you to know I haven't forgotten. She read it twice, and a small, confused smile tugged at her mouth. Because Nora remembered Sawyer. Of course she did. She remembered the family dinner 6 months ago. The night Vanessa had brought him to meet everyone. She remembered how the rest of them had crowded around the loud end of the table, talking over each other, while Sawyer had quietly slid down to sit beside her father. And then, for almost an hour, the two of them had talked about woodworking, about dovetail joints and the right way to sand against the grain, and why their father refused to use power tools for the finishing work. Most people humored her dad for about 90 seconds before their eyes glazed over. Sawyer hadn't. Sawyer had leaned in. He'd asked real questions. He'd meant every word. Nora remembered watching them and thinking, with a warm little flicker in her chest, Vanessa got lucky. This one's kind. This one actually listens. So when she read his message that rainy morning, she wasn't alarmed. She was puzzled, but gently so. The conversation about starting over meant nothing to her. They'd never had one. Clearly the message wasn't really for her. But it was sweet. It was harmless. And it had her name on it, so she figured she'd just let him know, kindly, that it had wandered off course. She started typing. No worries at all. Whoever this was meant for, I hope they got the message one way or another. Take care, Sawyer. Her thumb hovered over send. But she didn't press it. Because something stopped her. A small, quiet thought, the kind that taps you on the shoulder before you do something you can't undo. He's Vanessa's. Or he was. Is it strange for me to be texting him at all? She lowered the phone. She listened to the shower running down the hall. And she decided to do the loving thing. The honest thing. She'd ask her sister first. She climbed out of bed, padded down the hallway in her socks, and knocked on the bathroom door. Ness? She called. Hey, weird question. Did you know Sawyer still has my number? The shower shut off. There was a pause. A long one. Longer than it should have been. What? Vanessa's voice came through the door, muffled by the towel she was wrapping around herself. Sawyer, Nora said. He texted me last night. Something about an orange sky and starting over. I think it was a mistake. Like he meant to send it to someone else. I was just going to tell him no worries. But it felt weird not to mention it to you first. The bathroom door opened. And here is where the story turns, quietly, almost invisibly, the way the most important turns in life usually do. Vanessa stood in the doorway, steam curling out around her, her hair dripping, her face carefully arranged into something casual. But her eyes weren't casual. Her eyes were doing math. Because Vanessa already knew about that message. She had read it the night before. She had answered it in Nora's name. She had deleted Sawyer's apology before her sister could ever see it. And now Nora was standing in front of her, holding the very phone Vanessa had used. Completely innocent, completely trusting, asking permission to be kind. For 1 second, Vanessa had a choice. She could tell the truth. Nora, I have to confess something. I saw that message last night. I answered it. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. It would have been so easy. 6 words. The truth costs almost nothing in the moment you tell it. But Vanessa didn't tell it. Instead, she let out a small laugh, a dismissive little sound, and rolled her eyes. Oh, that. Don't even worry about it, nor. You knew. He's just like that, Vanessa said, reaching for her hairbrush, talking to the mirror instead of her sister. Sawyer. He sends stuff like that. Deep little messages. Makes them sound like they mean everything. She shrugged one shoulder. He used to do it to me all the time. Honestly, half the time he probably doesn't even remember who he's sending them to. Nora's smile faded just slightly. Oh, she said. I didn't realize he was. Like that. Trust me. Vanessa met her sister's eyes in the mirror. Don't read into it. Don't even reply honestly. It just encourages him. It gets awkward for everyone. And there it was. The first seed of doubt, planted gently, lovingly, by the person Nora trusted most in the world. Nora looked down at her phone, at the message she'd already written but hadn't sent. Take care, Sawyer. She felt foolish suddenly, like she'd almost walked into something embarrassing. Her sister knew this man. Her sister had loved this man. If Vanessa said he was the type to send sweet words and forget who he sent them to, well, who was Nora to argue? She deleted her unsent reply, letter by letter. Okay, she said quietly. Yeah, you're right. I won't. Good. Vanessa smiled at her, warm now, the danger past. Now go get dressed, you're gonna be late, and those kids will riot. Nora laughed, the heaviness lifting a little, and went back to her room. But Vanessa didn't move for a moment. She stood there in the steam, looking at her own reflection, and something flickered across her face that even she didn't fully understand. Not quite guilt, not quite regret. Something colder and more confusing, the feeling of having dodged something, while knowing, somewhere deep down, that dodging it had cost her a piece of who she wanted to be. She'd ended things with Sawyer because she believed she wasn't right for him. She'd told herself it was a selfless thing, a brave thing, and maybe, for months ago, it had been. But this was different. This wasn't letting go. This was making sure no one else could pick up what she dropped. That evening, while Nora was at the grocery store, Vanessa did one more thing. She still had Nora's phone. Her sister had left it charging on the kitchen counter. Vanessa picked it up. She opened the conversation with Sawyer one last time, and she typed a message that Nora would never know she'd sent. Hi Sawyer. I've thought about it and I'd really prefer you didn't reach out to me again. It's a little awkward for the whole family. No hard feelings, let's just leave it. Take care. She read it once. Her thumb trembled, just slightly. Then she sent it. And across the city, on my balcony again, I felt my phone buzz. I picked it up, expecting nothing. And there it was, a message from Nora Holt. Cool. Polite. Final. I'd really prefer you didn't reach out to me again. It's a little awkward for the whole family. I read it, and a strange, hollow feeling settled in my chest, because I hadn't reached out to her. I'd apologized, once, for an honest mistake. And now she was asking me to leave her alone, as if I'd been chasing her, as if I'd done something wrong. I started to type a reply. I'm confused. I only sent one message, by accident, and I apologized. But then I stopped. Because what was the point? If Vanessa's sister wanted nothing to do with me, who was I to push? The Holts were Vanessa's family. I was the ex, the outsider. Maybe the kindest thing I could do was disappear quietly, the way I'd been trying to disappear from that whole part of my life for 4 months. So I deleted what I'd written. I typed instead, simply, understood, I'm sorry again, take care, and I sent it into the dark. That message, my last one, arrived on Nora's phone while she was still at the grocery store, somewhere between the cereal and the bread. But she never saw it, because when she got home and checked her phone, the whole conversation with Sawyer Hines had been deleted. Every message, gone, wiped clean as if it had never happened at all. Nora frowned at her empty inbox for a second, confused. Then she shrugged. I must have deleted it, she thought. Vanessa said not to read into it. Maybe I cleaned it up without thinking. She set her phone down. She started putting away the groceries. She had no idea that 2 more messages had come and gone in her name. No idea that a kind man across the city now believed she'd told him to stay away. No idea that her own sister was quietly steering a story she didn't even know she was a character in. And the cruelest part? Nora went to bed that night thinking about Sawyer Hines just a little. About how she'd remembered him as kind, and how strange it was that her sister said he wasn't. About how she'd never gotten to send her own polite, friendly reply. A tiny ache she couldn't explain. She fell asleep listening to the rain. And 3 miles away, so did I, both of us believing a lie that neither of us had told. 6 weeks passed. 6 weeks of silence. 6 weeks of me telling myself I'd done the right thing by disappearing. 6 weeks of Nora carrying a small, strange ache she couldn't name, the ghost of a conversation she didn't remember ever finishing. And then, on a bright Saturday in October, the Maplewood Community Charity Fair brought us all into the same place at the same time, and none of us were ready for it. I was there for work. My design firm sponsored the fair every year, and I'd spent 2 weeks building the signs, the banners, the big colorful welcome arch at the entrance. I was crouched behind the children's reading corner, untangling a string of paper lanterns, when I heard a voice that made my hands go still. A gentle voice, patient, warm, reading out loud. I looked up, and there she was, Nora Holt, sitting cross-legged on a bright patchwork rug, a picture book open in her lap, surrounded by a half-circle of children who were leaning toward her like little plants toward the sun. The autumn light caught the side of her face. A breeze lifted the pages, and she read to them about a lost paper airplane that kept getting carried by the wind, landing in all the wrong hands again and again, until at last it drifted down to exactly the right ones. I couldn't move. This was the woman who, 6 weeks ago, had told me to stay away, to leave her alone, that I made things awkward for her whole family. But the woman in front of me didn't look like someone who hated anyone. She looked like the kindest person at the entire fair. And I felt something I couldn't explain. A pull, a wrongness, like two stories were sitting side by side that refused to fit together. I should have walked away. Instead, when the reading ended and the children scattered toward the popcorn stand, I found myself standing in front of her, my heart going like a drum. "Nora," I said. She looked up, and the moment she saw my face, her whole expression changed. Not to anger, not to coldness, to confusion, soft, open confusion. "Sawyer?" she said slowly. "Sawyer Hines. I wanted to apologize," I said, the words tumbling out. "In person. For the message. For all of it. I never meant to make you uncomfortable. I only sent one text by accident, and the second I realized, I apologized, and when you asked me to leave you alone, I did. I really did. I'm sorry." And then Nora Holt said 5 words that stopped the whole world. "I never asked you that." The fair kept moving around us. Laughing children, the smell of kettle corn and cut grass, a band tuning up somewhere. But between the two of us, everything went silent. "What?" I whispered. "Sawyer, I never told you to stay away." She rose slowly to her feet, the picture book pressed to her chest like a shield. "I got your first message. The one about the orange sky. I thought it was sweet, honestly. I figured it just wandered to the wrong person. I wanted to reply. I typed something kind. But..." She stopped. Her face went pale. "But my sister told me not to," she breathed. "She said you sent messages like that to everyone. She said not to reply." And then, the whole conversation disappeared off my phone. The pieces fell into place between us. Right there on that patchwork rug, in the golden October light. The reply I'd received. The cold message telling me to disappear. The vanished apology. None of it had ever been Nora. "Nora," I said softly, "I never got your reply. I got a message that said you wanted me gone. From your phone. And then, I sent one last apology. And it vanished too, didn't it?" She nodded, tears standing in her eyes. Not for me. Not yet. For her sister. Because she understood now. We both did. That evening, Nora didn't go home and explode. She didn't text Vanessa furious words. That wasn't who she was. Instead, the moment came 2 days later, quietly, the way real reckonings usually do. When their mother, Diane, came down with a bad flu, and both sisters drove home to take care of her. By 1 in the morning, with their mother finally asleep, Nora and Vanessa sat at the old kitchen table where they'd done homework as girls, 2 mugs of chamomile tea steaming between them. And Nora simply said it. "Ness, did you reply to Sawyer's message that night?" "From my phone." The kitchen went so quiet you could hear the old clock on the wall. Vanessa stared into her tea, her hands wrapped around the mug. And for the first time in 4 months, maybe longer, she stopped pretending she was fine. "Yes," she whispered. Nora didn't say anything. She just waited. "I saw it come in," Vanessa went on, her voice cracking. And Nora, I read it and it was good. It was kind and real. And it was the kind of message he used to. She pressed her lips together. And I knew it wasn't even meant for you. But the thought of him, of someone like him, accidentally finding his way to you, to my own sister, when I was the one who threw him away. Her tears fell into the tea. I couldn't stand it, so I answered for you. I told him to stay away, and I deleted everything. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. She finally looked up, expecting fury, expecting to lose her sister. But Nora reached across that old table and took Vanessa's hand. No shouting, no lecture, just one hand holding another. Why didn't you just tell me you weren't ready? Nora said gently. I would have walked away. I would have. You're my sister. You'll always come first. And that broke something open in Vanessa, something that needed to break. That's the worst part. She wept. I ended it with him because I knew I couldn't be what he needed. I thought I was being noble. And then I turned around and made sure no one else could have what I let go of. That's not love, Nora. That's just fear. She wiped her face. He's a genuinely good man. That's not nothing. And you deserve someone who actually listens. She let out a wet laugh. You always did. She squeezed her sister's hand back. Reply to him, Vanessa said. For real this time, in your own words. I should never have stolen that from you. A week later, a package arrived at Nora's classroom. No return address, just her name in careful, hand-drawn letters. Inside was a small, handmade picture book, illustrated by hand, painted in warm oranges and soft golds. On the cover, in Sawyer's lettering, were the words, "The wrong text, the right story." Nora opened it with shaking hands while her students napped. Page by page, it told the whole thing. A man on a balcony beneath an orange sky. A message that slipped to the wrong contact. A reply written by the wrong hand. A silence that lasted 6 weeks. A reading corner at a fair where two strangers finally got to speak the truth. And on the very last page, there was no ending. Just a blank space, and one line written underneath it. I don't know how this story ends. But for the first time, I'd like to find out with the right person this time. Whatever happens next is up to you. Nora closed the book and held it to her chest, and she cried, the good kind, the kind that washes something clean. That weekend, she found him at the community garden where he volunteered, where the last of the autumn tomatoes still clung to their vines, and the air smelled like soil and rain. She didn't say a word. She just walked up to him, opened the little book to its blank final page, and with a pencil from behind her ear, she drew 2 small figures, sitting side by side on a garden bench, beneath a sky she'd colored orange. Then she handed it to me, and I looked at that drawing, and then at her, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like a story that had been carried by the wind for so long had finally gently landed in exactly the right hands. We sat on that bench. We talked until the sun went down. Not about Vanessa, not about the past. Just about woodworking and picture books, and the strange, beautiful accident that had brought a wrong message to the right person. And Vanessa? She healed too. Slowly. Honestly. The day she finally apologized to me, face to face, she also forgave herself. And the 3 of us became something none of us expected. Not a wound. A family that had told each other the truth and survived it. Turns out the wrong text wasn't the mistake. The mistake was almost letting fear write a story that was never ours to finish. And I learned something I'll carry forever. The wrong moment, the wrong message, even the wrong heartbreak. Sometimes they're not detours at all. Sometimes they're the long, winding road to exactly where you were always meant to be. So let me ask you something before you go. And I really want you to sit with this one. If a single honest message could change your entire life, is there someone right now you've been too afraid to send the truth to? And what story might be waiting for you on the other side of finally being brave enough to hit send? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that the right thing can still find you, even after the wrong turns, do one small thing for me. Tap that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss the next story. Because the next one might just be the one you needed to hear. Stay kind, stay brave, and never be afraid to send the truth. I'll see you in the next story.